Okay, guys. So last time we have started up in discussing the issues related to the bottom-up parsing. Like we discussed some time back, the issues related to the top-down parsing. So we saw, we generalize these issues. Along these two statements here: shift reduce conflict and the reduce conflict. I mean, when to shift and when to reduce if both actions seems to be valid. So the parser should have enough intelligence that it can end up in taking only unique decision or action here, either to shift or reduce. Similarly, we have this reduce conflict. So if there are multiple productions for the same, thing, so which production I should use for reduction here? Fine. So this was the some of the issues where we stopped here, and we also saw the examples related to this. All right. So this was a shift and reduce conflict, and this was one instance of the reduce and reduce conflict here. So, what exactly is the issue now? I mean, why these conflicts are coming? I mean, because of this bottom-up parsing. What is the main reason? I mean, why we are getting these conflicts? Because we need to understand why these conflicts are arising in our parsing. We are doing the bottom-up parsing. Any suggestions? Any responses from your side? Come on, guys, let's interact on this point, because we have discussed so much about the conflicts in the last session.
Sir, maybe because we are not using the first set information as of now.
We do not need to use the first set of information here, because let's retain that information. Let's retain that pre-processing part as a part of top-down processing. I'm saying that I have been given one grammar, and I have been told that you have to construct the bottom-up parser, but I am facing these conflicts. So what is the reason here? Even after computing the first and the other things, I may come across the same issues. Any other responses, guys? Come on, I have already answered such things which I am right now asking you so many number of times. I'm not asking you something different, but I understand I am asking you in a different way, because right now we are in the bucket of bottom-up parsing. Why these issues are coming to us? I mean, these conflicts. Come on, guys, it's very simple. Yes.
So there is nothing deterministic here, sir. As to
there is nothing deterministic, so I can say the problem is with the form of the grammar. So grammar is ambiguous again, right?
yes, sir.
So the grammar is ambiguous, and that's why I'm coming across these conflicts. So this is the enough motivation for us that since we have encountered the conflicts, the issues, now let's do the parsing. Let's construct the parser. Let's first construct the first bottom-up parser, and the parser goal is to resolve these issues as much he can, or it is not feasible for him to do so. And we have to also correct the form of the grammar, right? So parser says, don't give me the ambiguous form of the grammar. Fine. So this is where we have to jump now. So we'll see the parser and how this is going to handle such type of conflicts or issues here. So again, just as a summarize, whether to shift or reduce, we need to answer this, and which production I should use for production when I have multiple choices for reduction here. So this is the enough motivation for us to move towards the first bottom-up parser, which is known as LR0 parsing. LR0 parser. So here the first L stands for that, as you know, that we are always scanning the input from the left to the right. So this is what it stands for. And the second R stands for that bottom-up parser will always give the rightmost derivations, however, in reverse order. Now, what do you mean by this thing? This is 0. Come on, guys. Any guesses on this? Because we have already seen such things. What do you mean by this 0?
There's no look ahead. Means
There is no look ahead. So can you put some more light on it? I mean, what does it, what is the significance of 0 look ahead?
it just looks at the character that it is on right now. The pointer is on right now. It doesn't see any other things ahead of it and doesn't decide based on the
Correct. Absolutely correct. So absolutely correct. So here, look ahead of 0 means that the parser is going to make, let's say in a generalized manner, it is going to make some blind decisions. Oh, come on, I am not going to look at certain things in my input stream and still I'll make certain decisions. This is why it is called, the LR0 parsing. I'm not going to look at symbols right now. And we'll prove this thing very shortly. I mean, you will be able to visualize that I am not looking at something and I am doing certain actions blindly, right? So let's start with it. And before starting, we need to do again some sort of pre-processing as we did in the top-down parsing, like first set computation and follow set computation. We also rewrite the form of the grammar with respect to the left recursion and the left factoring, and so on and so forth. And similarly, we'll also do some sort of pre-processing, and then it is feasible for us to jump into this LR0 parsing. Fine. So let's first step here. It says, always the first step is you have to customize the existing form of the grammar to some extent. And that customization in the recent literature art is known by this, that you just need to augment the current form of the grammar here. Now, what do you mean by this? That means I'm going to modify the current form of the grammar here. So augment the grammar as a part of first step in the LR0 parsing says that you have to introduce, let me write in the form of a grammar. Suppose this is the modified grammar of the, the existing grammar, let's say G prime, which is, it says in which we have this 4 tuples, the variables, the tokens, the set of productions, and the start symbol here. So it says introduce a new start symbol of the grammar. In place of S, just introduce, let's say, S prime. And with respect to the revised set of productions, include one more production where S prime is deriving S here. Now, this S is no longer a start symbol of your grammar. Instead, your S prime is a new start symbol of the grammar. And why did we introduce that? We'll discuss now. And we have the same set of tokens. We are not going to change our terminals or tokens. And this is obviously going to change because this obviously is a non-terminal. So I'll say in mind, this will definition, the revised definition of this variable says it is going to include the S prime. So if I say this is my revised form of the grammar, that is G prime here. Fine. With this new production and the start symbol of the grammar here. Let me write here S prime. Now, why we are doing this change? Why we are doing this cosmetic change to the grammar? Obviously, since it is I must say it is a cosmetic change. So obviously the just the form of the grammar is going to change. Obviously the strings will not. But why we are doing this? Remember, we have to do the reductions, right, every single time. Just recall the very first example in which we have just taken one, just one string, and we reduced to the start symbol of the grammar. Fine. And assume that we have one production of this form. Let's say S is deriving E plus T here, and where S is my start symbol of the grammar here. Fine. And suppose my derivation let's suppose my derivation has been reached at this point here. Fine. I mean, this is one of my valid sentential form of the grammar here in the process of the derivation. So what I'll do as a part of next step, I'll say, okay, come on, this is matching with this substring is completely matching with the right hand side of the production. So let me reduce to the start symbol of the grammar S here, and I'll stop here. Now assume if you have multiple productions with your with respect to your start symbol here. Let's suppose you have this guy also, that is E minus T, E itself, and T, and so on. That means your bottom-up parser has to remember so much different configuration that whenever I get something in my sentential form with respect to E plus T or E minus T or E or T, I'll always reduce to the start symbol of the grammar, and I should immediately say, now stop here. Fine. So parser says, now instead of this, because I need to accept, I need to reach on to the accept state in a unique way. Fine. So let me introduce a new non-terminal of the grammar, which will act as a now the new start symbol of the grammar, and which will obviously derive the earlier, the older start symbol of the grammar. So now it will say, okay, now let me reduce with the S prime, fine. Oh, sorry, first with this S here, and further with the S prime, and this is where I'll say now I start, and that too in a unique way, because I do not have multiple reproductions for S prime. And most importantly, I will never ever find the S prime on the right hand side of any production. Fine, guys, is this reason clear to all of you, that while we are introducing this new production in our revised form of the grammar, which we call that augment the grammar? So this is your, I mean, this thing here, I mean, the augmentation of the grammar here. So G is a grammar with the start symbol S, and the augmented grammar G prime for G has a new start symbol S prime and an additional production S prime is deriving S. So when the parser reduces by this new rule, it will simply raise an alarm that I need to stop immediately with some accept state, and we'll see what do you mean by the accept state here very shortly. So this is a unique termination point now. Doesn't matter how many productions I have with respect to, let's say, this or anything. I mean, so, but whenever I'll reduce by this rule, I have to stop and I'll accept whatever I have done till now with respect to the parsing. Fine, guys, any questions, anything which you want to make here up to this point? Augmentation of the grammar, the very first step. Fine. So remember, always we have to do this kind of part. Now the next thing. The next thing comes in the context of the construction of LR0 items. So we'll call these, I mean, remember the dot symbol. So we'll call these things now the construction of the LR0 items. Now, what is the significance of these LR0 items? That first of all, we need to understand why do we require this thing. Fine. So here, we need to understand what exactly is the significance of the, I mean, this LR0 items first. So remember, I mean, just few, I mean, in the earlier sessions, we said this is our, I mean, something start symbol of the grammar, or this, I mean, we can place the dot anywhere on the right hand side of the production where the left hand side part would be, I mean, just like this. If we say, suppose this is the current form of the grammar. So I'll say this beta would be the right hand side part. I mean, the tokenized, the input which I'm supposed to pass, and this is my stack configuration here. Now I have to repeat this process for each and every single production of the grammar here. It says, suppose if you have some production of this form, let's say A, B, and C here in your any random grammar. So you need to construct the LR0 items with respect to this production here. So what are the different possibilities? So I'll say first is this, that my dot will immediately come, I mean, on the extreme right hand, sorry, the left hand side here, where I do not have anything on the right hand side, sorry, on the left hand side here. Then further, it is quite possible that my dot can shift here. This would be also my another position of the dot. Similarly, my another position of the dot could be this and this. So remember, now dot is on the last. So now I have, I mean, with respect to this is my stack configuration, and I do not have anything on my input with respect to this particular thing. Fine. So now what do you mean by this construction of the LR0 items? So I'll say this is one LR0 item, this is one LR0 item. So on what basis any production will become LR0 item? If I place the dot on the right hand side of the production at any point, I mean either here, here, or here, or somewhere at this point here. So this will become an LR0 item here. Now, what is the significance of this? I mean, what exactly this dot is indicating here? Remember, we just said that we have to deal with a number of states in our LR0 parser here. Now, this dot indicates that in which state right now you are. Suppose I need to perform the reduction with A here whenever my stack configuration is ABC. So it says that this is the right point, that somewhere, suppose your configuration is this ABC, fine, and whatever is your input stream right now, I mean, your looking pointer is somewhere pointing to. Now, this is the right point where you simply reduce this guy to A here. I mean, simply pop this and just include the A symbol here. So this dot symbol is letting you know that this is the right time, this is the right state where you should perform this reduction. And this dot symbol is nothing but your indication of the states here. I mean, this is just capturing the fact that you are in some correct state here. Let's suppose your configuration right now is this. I mean, your dot symbol is here and your configuration on the stack is this. Now, at this point, you cannot reduce this symbol, I mean, this configuration to A here. Similarly, not here, and not here as well. So this dot indicates, I mean, when to reduce and when to shift here. So here it says, oh, come on, you have to shift, right? So that's why I did the shift and dot become here. Here also it says, now I have to consume some certain other symbols also. Fine, guys, is something clear with respect to the LR0 item?
Sir, so if there is a dot, then it's an LR0 item?
If there is a dot on the right hand side of a production, so it becomes a LR0 item. Correct.
So anywhere, it can be anywhere, but it should be.
It can be anywhere, but dot has to be there. So dot dot is just capturing the state information. That at which state are you right now?
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
Now, this is first significance, that when to reduce and when to shift, because I'm still somewhere in the middle or on the extreme left hand side. Let me go here and then I'll perform a reduction. Fine, doesn't matter what my lookout symbol is. I mean, just remember why we are calling it LR0. Fine. Now, this is the construction of LR0 items. Put the dot anywhere on the right hand side, and obviously we have to initially put on the extreme left hand side, and then we can start like this. And with respect to this, we'll get some more LR0 items now. So here is the concept, let me rub this. So here is the concept of, I mean, something which we call the closure property also. Yes. So LR0 of an item is a grammar, is a production of G with a special symbol at some position of the at some special I mean at with a special symbol dot at some position on the right hand side here. So like I gave you the same example. Suppose we have this production here. So this will give me corresponding 4 LR0 items here. And as I said, each item indicates that how much of a production has been seen by your parser at some point in the process of parsing. I'm yet to see this. I'm yet to see this. I have consumed this much. Now I can make certain decisions here. And similarly, here my decision is that keep on shifting the dot. Right? Here also keep on shifting the dot. And remember, in the last session, one guy asked me the question that that the dot symbol. I mean, as I said, the configuration on the left of the dot will be always kept on the the stack, and the configuration which is on the right hand side of the dot will be always kept on the input stream. But here, I mean, input stream cannot include the I must say the non-terminal symbols. So was my statement wrong? Not at all, because here what does it exactly means that whatever, I mean, dot is my here. So whatever the V, this non-terminal is going to be derived. So because since it is a non-terminal, it will possibly derive some other strings also. So those strings let me push onto the stack, and then I'll further reduce it with the Y here. Fine. So the derivation of the Y, that should be followed by the dot here. Fine, guys. I think this is clear to all of you. So now we have the closure operation, because that will compute the further LR0 items here. So closure, let me give you an example so that things would be very much clear. So closure says, suppose you have one LR0 item of this form, let's say this, alpha dot beta gamma. Now what does it indicate right now? I mean, let's suppose any production which is driving this. It says, okay, this is a LR0 item. I mean, I do not have any confusion because I have a dot on the right hand side, but what does it indicate more? It indicates that I have seen alpha, my stack configuration is filled with the alpha, and I am expecting to see certain derivations which should be derivable from beta gamma. Correct? This is how the parser has to think, that I have seen alpha already, that is already my stack configuration, and I am expecting to see certain strings which are derivable from beta and gamma. That means, suppose, let's assume that, let me replace with this B here instead of beta, I mean the non-terminal. So I have seen alpha and I'm expecting certain derivations which are supposed to be start from B gamma here. And where I have one more production for B, let's say B is deriving A and B here, where A is my terminal and B is my non-terminal. So I'll say in that case, I'll add the LR0 items with respect to this production, that is dot AB. Now this is what do you mean by closure, and the closure will get added into this particular thing here. So again, I mean, this concept is clear that I have one LR0 item which says alpha dot B gamma. So which says I'm expecting certain input which is supposed to start or which is supposed to be derivable from B. So let me search the corresponding production. So this is the corresponding production. And suppose I have one more production, let's say B also. So I'll say either I'll include the LR0 item with respect to this production. That means B is deriving dot AB. That means I have seen nothing and I am expecting certain derivations which are supposed to be start from A here. Similarly, I have seen nothing and I'm expecting maybe I'll get certain things from B itself. Is this thing clear? The closure operation. So closure properties now says in a formal way like this. Let I be the set of items in my graph. It could be any set of items. So the closure of I mean the closure of that item, that is which we have just computed alpha dot b beta, is a set constructed as follows. So first of all, every item in I is in closure of I. That means this by default item, it has to be in the closure of I. And the other items, suppose this is the form currently. If A is deriving alpha dot b beta is in closure of I, where B has to be a non-terminal, remember this thing. And we have one production, that is B is deriving gamma, then B is deriving dot gamma should be in closure of I. And this is what we did exactly. We just placed the dot at the first position, and this is what we are expecting. Gamma could be any string of terminals and non-terminals here. Fine, guys, the closure operation is somewhat clear. And yet it is not clear. So let's look at this example right now. Suppose this is the form of the grammar where E prime is deriving E and rest of the productions are in front of you. Now let's suppose I have one item I which says E prime is deriving dot E. That means I have seen nothing and I am expecting certain derivations which are supposed to be derivable from E here. Then what is the closure of I? So definition says obviously this guy will come by default and in the first place. And now I have seen nothing. That means I am expecting certain derivations which are supposed to be derivable from E. So let us find the productions of E. E have one this production and this production. That means I have to write E is deriving dot E plus T and E is deriving dot T. That means I have seen nothing that I have, but I am expecting certain derivations which are supposed to be start from E here. Similarly here, I have seen null and I am expecting certain derivations from T here. And similarly with respect to this part, again, I have to compute the closure of this also again, because this is recursive, right? So again, I need to write the LR0 items which are supposed to start from E here, but already this is already added here because this is again going to be added. So we do not need to show the redundant LR0 items. But what about this? I have seen nothing on my stack, but I am expecting certain derivations which are supposed to be start from the T here. So let me find the productions for the T and I'll add them as LR0 item. That T is deriving dot T star F and T is deriving dot F. And again, I need to compute the closure for this. So closure for this is again the same itself. So I need not to write again. And again, I need to compute the closure for this, that I am expecting certain derivations from F. And these are the productions. So let me add that. So one is this and the another one is this. Now we stopped here. Why? Because if we compute the closure of this, so after this, this is a terminal symbol. This is my token. So I do not have any production. So that means I have seen nothing that I am expecting certain derivations which are supposed to be start from the first of this complete end side, which is nothing but the open parenthesis. Similarly here, if I compute the closure, this is implicitly telling or explicitly that ID, it's completely the token here. So this becomes one of my state, which includes all the set of these LR0 items corresponding to this thing here. Hope you have understood the closure operation, guys. I mean, what is the significance of this? So parser, yes.
What if epsilon was there?
Sorry, epsilon?
What if epsilon was there from some non-terminal?
Fine. So you are saying something like this? E is deriving epsilon?
Yes.
So in that case, I'll say if I am computing the closure of this, that means I have to add one product LR0 item which will say simply this, that is dot. That means I have seen nothing and I am also expecting nothing. Is it fine?
Can't we go to the next non-terminal in that case? Suppose E prime was deriving dot E and some
Fine.
capital E. So
so first of all, I mean, I have to retain the definition of the closure. How will I reach there, right? So first I'll compute the closure, then I'll compute some other go-to part, and then I'll perform a shift operation, and then I'll reach to the next of the derivation of that gram. So I have to perform a shift operation with respect to this, which you are saying.
Got it. Thank you.
Fine. So that point is coming right now. Fine, guys. Is everything fine up to this point? So this is closure part. I mean, what your parser is expecting next to the dot. Now we have another thing which is called goto operation. Now goto operation is what? Let's try to first understand this thing here. Let me give you one example first of all. Suppose again at any point of time we have certain production of this form again. Let me write this time B followed by beta. And I need to compute the goto part here. What do you mean by this goto? And suppose this is one state which will say, let's say B is deriving, let's say dot AB itself also. Now I need to compute the goto with respect to this state, which includes these two set of LR0 items here. Now it says, now already I have computed the closure. Now I need to perform the shift operation so that I can see the rest of the configuration that is beta here. So what I'll do, I'll simply perform a goto, which will say that I am performing a goto with respect to B, fine, and this will take me to another state where my LR0 item will become this now. Fine. So remember, earlier my prefix which was on the stack is alpha, and now taking the goto on this B, which is just immediately on the right hand side of the dot, so my prefix become alpha B. That means this much configuration I have already seen on my stack here, and this is what I am expecting right now. And assuming right now my beta is any string of terminals or non-terminals, and again I have to compute the closure with respect to the beta here. Understood the goto part, guys? Similarly, for this, I'll say I need to compute the goto with respect to this production. So here, my prefix is null, right? My stack configuration is null. So that means now my stack configuration will become A dot B. That means concatenation of this with this, concatenation of this with this, which is becoming your new prefix in the stack. So this is where the goto part is coming into picture, so that we can see the rest of the productions correspondingly in the other states also. So goto of any item with respect to any grammar symbol, it could be a terminal, it could be any non-terminal as well, is this item, such that if already A is deriving alpha dot x beta is in an item here. Fine, so we just perform the shift operation, and where my prefix was initially alpha and corresponding to this input alphabet, or sorry, the grammar symbol corresponding to the given grammar symbol, now my configuration is becoming this. So if I is a set of items for some valid prefix, so prefix is whatever is the stack configuration, whatever is in the left of the dot. Then goto of I on x is a set of valid items from some prefix alpha x. So remember, now my prefix is alpha x. Fine, guys? So this is the, yes.
There are two transitions in which we have x. Suppose there is some B goes to anything, sir. X dot gamma.
X dot gamma.
This was there in our items, sir, set of items. So do we have to change this also?
Yes, because we are generalizing for the prefix alpha. Let's suppose we have another production of, let's say, x dot b also. So we have to compute for both these because both prefix are same. So if I am computing the goto with respect to, let's say, common prefix x, so my goto will become x gamma dot and x, let's say, b dot. This is what you are saying?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So we have to compute for all the respective productions whose prefix is same.
It will be dot x gamma and dot xb, right, sir?
No. It will be first of all, because since we are computing the goto, so right now my dot is somewhere here, right? So first I'll compute the goto, that is with respect to this will become x gamma dot, and again I have the same prefix, that's here. And after that I'll compute the closure if I can.
Sir, I have small doubt. So
Yes.
how we have said goto of x, and in that case the dot is we are basically 1 second, sir. We have to bring the dot to the right or left. I'm confused.
So don't get confused here. This is very simple. Don't mix the closure and the go-to part first. Let's first focus on the go-to part. Right now, one of the state is including these two items, right? So this is with respect to x dot v and gamma and x dot, let's say b here. Fine. And let me introduce a here right now so that things will not become more. It is an odd terminal. So now I need to compute the go-to on with respect to this item, let's say I1. So go-to on I1 with respect to this grammar symbol. So I'll find, first of all, where this prefix is coming here. So x and x is both is coming. So simply I'll do what? So now my prefix would become, in both case, that is xa and xb here. Fine. This is what I'm saying here.
Yes, sir. Sir, I understood what you have said. And in the above statement, sir, so it's
Yes.
x, and the prefix x is there in the first transition.
So first is this, and then second is this.
Okay. So
Are you
here,
confusing? First is this, fine, and then this is the closure. This is the go-to.
yes, sir. But here we are writing goto of x and not goto of alpha. So that is what.
So go-to of I on this. Okay, this is what you are saying. So here my alpha is this, na? I mean here my alpha is x. So that's why we are writing x here.
So in the above case, then it should be goto
Let
of.
me take one example. Then you just compare. Fine.
Okay.
So just look at this same grammar. So we have same grammar here, and assuming right now my item is somewhere at this configuration. E is deriving E dot plus T. Fine. So I'm saying that go to on I of plus here. Fine. Because this is what I'm expecting right now. So I'll say that this is the thing which I'm expecting here. So E is deriving E plus dot. So now earlier my alpha prefix is this, and after concatenating my prefix is becoming E plus. Is this fine now?
Yes, sir. It's fine. I understood. Thank you.
Yeah. So now I'm expecting I have to compute the closure. So I have seen this much part, and now I am computing closure because I'm expecting certain derivations which are supposed to be derivable from T. So let me find out those productions, and I just come right and that this is the LR0 item with respect to these two productions. And I cannot introduce dot somewhere in the middle because I am expecting certain things which are supposed to be start from this point. Similarly, there is no need to compute the closure again for this because I'll get the same thing. So that's why we computed for F. And this is the picture. Fine, this go to and closure part. So now we have discussed sufficient. Yes, anyone wants to comment?
Sir, yes, sir. Sir, I want to ask, like, if the same question we have to solve and we have to find go-to of I with respect to capital T. So what will be the answer in that case?
Correct. So in that, this is first of all seems to be invalid operation. So parser says first let me reach here up to this point. So first you have to compute this, and then you can now go with respect to this. If you are saying directly with this, that is not possible, because parser cannot jump directly here. Parser sees whatever is on the immediate of the immediate on the right hand side of the dot, that I can compute. Now I can compute the goto on t with respect to this, and I'll say this will become E is deriving E plus T dot. Fine. Similarly, there is one more T here with respect to this. So I'll also say that T is deriving T dot star F here. So this is the go-to part. And now I compute the closure part. And closure part says I do not have anything to see here because I have reached it at the end. And here my next is token here. So this is becoming one of my state which includes these two items. Did I answer your question first of all?
Yes, sir. Sir, here, like in the printed text in the left side, the last three rules, they will not be transformed no, while taking the goto with respect to t, because they don't have to.
Because we are not expecting something which is supposed to be derivable from t, right? So these are the only qualifying productions.
Okay, sir. So other will not be included also, like as it is.
Other will not be. I did not include that. Other will not be
Oh.
included. They will include in some other states.
Okay, sir. Got it. Thank you.
If I compute the goto on f, let's say like this. So I'll say t is deriving f dot. So this will not coincide with the previous state. This will go to some other state. So we'll see these examples very shortly. Is this thing clear now?
Yes, sir. Got it. Thank you.
So now, guys, this is all sort of some sort of pre-processing that is required for our first parser, that is the LR0 parser. Now let's go back the structure of the LR0 parser, which I have kept at the very first place. Again, I have to rub this so that you can see exactly how my first parser is looking like. So guys, this is your first parser. I mean, the first bottom-up parser, where we have almost the similar things, but something we have different that we are going to discuss. So you can see with respect to the top-down parsing, again, we have the stack, we have the input stream, which I am supposed to parse. We have the parse table, but this time the configuration of the parse table is completely different with respect to that LL1 parser here. And obviously our parsing algorithm will also going to be different here. So these two guys are going to be completely different here. And most importantly, the configuration of the stack and the input stream is also going to be different. Recall, in the LL1 parser, we have the non-terminal symbols on the top of the stack, and we have certain terminal symbols, and correspondingly, we'll generally take the decisions here. Instead, in the LR0 parser, we have certain state symbols on the top of the stack, and we have certain input streams. Let me write as state symbols as S1. And then accordingly, we'll take the actions here. And you can imagine now these state symbols are nothing but the dot symbol. That where you are right now. I mean, suppose you are something here right now. So this says that just below this dot, this is the information, right? So this is the information which you have kept. So this is the significance of this dot here. And now if I see, suppose if T can derive this A, then only you should take certain actions here. I hope you are able to visualize. So on the top of the stack, we have the state symbols, and below that state symbols, we have the valid prefix, that is alpha B. And then we can take the subsequent actions here. Hope you have understood this. So input stream is going to be the same, and the stack is going to contain the strings of the form where these x1, x2, and xn are the grammar symbols, and this s0, s1, and s2, s3 up to sn are my state symbols. So what you can see that initially my stack includes this initial state, let's say 0, s0, and after that I have this in configuration x1 and s1. Further, I have a new state for this x2 and so on and so forth. So let's suppose my parser is in state s0. What does it indicates right now? My stack is filled with. That means I am at the initial state. I did not consume anything. I did not make any action. Fine. So above that, let's suppose I have x1 and this s1, and this is my input stream. So now I'll say that I am at state s1. That means I have looked some dot, and on the right hand side I am looking this. So what should I do corresponding to this prefix alpha b here? Let's assume like this. Are you able to visualize, guys, whatever we have discussed so far? I mean, the significance of these state symbols. And the table is going to contain now two different parts. One is the action and the another one is the go-to part. That we'll understand very shortly. Fine. I mean, as I said, our parse table is going to be very different, where action table is going to be indexed by state and the terminal symbols, that means your tokens, whereas your go-to table is going to be indexed by your state as non-terminal symbols. So this is important. I mean, the state information which is captured by your stack here. I mean, the manipulation is this. I am not going to take certain decisions with respect to the grammar symbol and the input string. Rather, I am going to take the decisions with respect to my dot symbol, that means my state information, and the current symbol which I am looking right now. Fine, guys. Somehow able to visualize whatever the pre-processing parts we have just discussed. So fine. So let's move forward then. This was all the processing which we have did till now. Steps in the LR0 parsing, step by step. So first we said we have to bring this cosmetic change to our grammar by just introducing the augmented form of the grammar. The second step says we have to construct one graph, which generally we called as go-to graph, and we can also call this graph as DFA, which includes the set of states or the set of transitions using the closure and the go-to operations performed on LR0 items that we did earlier. So this is the pre-processing required for the construction of the DFA, or we generally called it as a go-to graph. And once it is ready, then this graph is going to facilitate us for the construction of the parsing table that we are going to utilize for the parsing here. And finally, we have to execute the parsing on the given string here. Fine, guys. So these two steps we have to look with utmost care. So let's do it. So right now we are not looking at any formal algorithm upfront. We'll simply look at the problem, and then it is very easy for us to understand the algorithm steps of this parsing. Fine. So we have been given one grammar, a small grammar, and we have been told to construct the LR0 parsing table or the complete go-to graph and so on and so forth. And finally, we complete the processing, the parsing through this input that is AABB. Fine, guys. So let's take it. Augment the grammar as a part of first step. So this was the given grammar, and we did just blindly take in new start symbol of the grammar. I mean, just by S prime, where S prime can derive S here, and this is the thing here. And recall here the start symbol has only unique production, so always it is going to accept by this if I will not include even this, but still we have made it generalized. So let's do it. Fine. So, and we have also numbered these productions just to remember that from which production we are reducing. So rather to write the production again, we'll mention the numbers only 0, 1, 2, 3. Fine, guys. The first step, so simple, augment the grammar. Now, as a part of second step, as I said, we have to construct the go-to graph, and third step says parsing table. So let's see it quickly. So this is our revised form of the grammar, the augmented form of the grammar, which is indexed by these numbers. Now let's see the construction of the go-to graph here. This is something which is looking like go-to graph, guys, where each and every these collection of these LR0 items, indexed by the state numbers. So started with the state number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on and so forth. And these are the corresponding edges that we are going to understand. Now, from where we are starting, let's focus on this laser, guys. So we started with this first, that is S prime is deriving dot S. That means we haven't seen anything and we are expecting certain derivations which should be startable from the S here. That means if I look at this particular LR0 item, I need to compute the closure. And closure says include all the productions which are starting from the S here. And we have only one production, that is S is deriving AA. So we'll put the dot on the extreme left-hand side, that is dot AA. And now I do not need to repeat the same thing what I'm expecting. So I'm expecting certain derivations from A. So I'll compute the closure of this S is deriving dot AA. So I'll find two productions of A. So A is deriving dot AA and A is deriving dot B. And further, if I compute the closure of this will not give me any other LR0 item, because the next symbol is again the token or the terminal symbol. Similarly here also, the B itself. So this will contribute towards one single state which includes these four different LR0 items. And we call this state as, let's say, state 0. Find this much part, guys. State 0, the contents of the state 0. Now, we computed the LR0 items and we computed other LR0 items by computing the closure of this. Now we have to compute the goto so that we can see the rest of the configuration on the right hand side. So let's do one by one for this. So we did for this, that is, we just need to, so our initially prefix is epsilon, and now prefix will become simply epsilon into just the symbol on the right hand side of the dot, that is S here. So now you can see my prefix is becoming S here by performing the go to on S here by this arrow symbol. So S dash is deriving S dot, and you can see I do not have S on the right hand side of dot anywhere in the rest of the LR0 items. So that's why this state is including only one LR0 item, and even I cannot compute the closure of it because I do not have anything to see on the right hand side of dot here. So this becomes another state which we are calling as state number 1. And see, this is the accepting state, guys. If you just see, I do not have anything to see on the right hand side, and I have seen everything. That's why my configuration on the top of the stack is S, and now I can reduce to the S dash here. So we'll come to this point later. I was just trying to visualize you people. So now next we'll come back to the state 0 again. So this production was left. So we'll compute the goto of this. So goto on A, this will become S is deriving A dot A. Fine. And I do not have any other symbol on which on the extreme, immediate on the right hand side of dot, I will find this non-terminal A. So I'll go here, I'll compute the closure. So again, I'm expecting certain derivations which are supposed to be derivable from A. So that's why we added these two productions, keeping dot on the extreme left-hand side. And if I cannot compute the closure of this because these are non-terminals on the extreme left-hand side, so this will contribute to the second state, guys. Fine. Similarly, I take this production or say this LR0 item and I'm computing the goto with respect to the next terminal symbol that is A, and the configuration of the LR0 item is becoming like this. That is A is deriving A dot A, and finally I need to compute the closure, and these are the two again items that have to come. And I cannot compute the closure of these last two items, so that's why this will contribute towards state 3. Now finally, if I go back to the state 0, I have only one item left, that is A is deriving dot B, and again I am computing the goto, so this will give me A is deriving B dot. And I cannot compute the closure because I have nothing to see on the right hand side of the dot. So my 0 state is completely finished. I cannot compute the goto on the state 1 because I do not have anything to see on the extreme right hand side of the dot. So on the 2, state number 2, I can compute again the goto on A. So that will give me S is deriving A dot, and again I cannot compute the closure because I do not have anything to see on the right hand side of the dot. Fine, guys. So again, I have next thing, that is A dot A. So this will come to here, that is already we have computed, right? So you can see from here A dot A, if I am computing. So already I have an item which include this item. So why should I go for making redundant states with the corresponding redundant LR0 items here? So we redirected this thing to here. And similarly, closure is already there for A here. A is deriving B dot. That again we have already here. So I just redirected B to here. And this part is over here. And again for this, A is deriving A dot. So for that we include again, I cannot compute the closure here. So this is with respect to this here. And similarly here, with respect to this second LR0 item, A is deriving dot A. So that will become A is deriving A dot A here. I mean the self loop. So again, the first thing and then again the closure. And finally, with respect to A is deriving dot B, this will go to A deriving B dot, that we have already. And I cannot compute the goto on this because 5 and 6, because I do not have the rest of the things on the extreme right hand side. Fine, guys. So this is just the DFA or the goto graph of this parser here. So let's stop here and we'll see the construction of the rest of the things in the next session. Any questions, anything which you want to discuss, you can discuss.
So set I defines a state, right?
I defines a state. No, I defines here one LR0 item. Fine.
Okay.
I defines here an item in the corresponding state. Okay, fine. So guys, I have uploaded some of more practice problems on the bottom-up parsing. So likewise, we'll cover the topics. Please go through that. Yes, guys, any question further on this?